And thank you for having me at Spice.
Karibu sana. Good to see you. Good to have you. A lot of things for us to discuss this morning. But let's first of all start. Dennis takes us to Cape Verde this morning.
Yeah, Cape Verde, the locals call it Cabo Verde, Yeah. A population of 560,000 people, official language Portuguese, and it is a unitary parliamentary republic. That is the type of government they have. But they give us this proverb today. Every step has its time. Every step has its time. How would you interpret that?
Indeed. It's just like the Bible saying for everything time. And every season has its time.
It's time.
Yeah.
Every season has its time.
Straight and simple, eh? Yeah.
Indeed it is. So, I mean, we obviously are at the junction of a very interesting time in Kenya's politics, but we've just come off of burying the late Raila Odinga. He's left the stage. And I think that, and I'll be bold enough to say at this point, that you were not given ample opportunity to speak on what you feel about Raila Odinga, the man in a position where the world was watching. You were his running mate. You were his legal counsel at some point. You worked with the man for a very, very long time. And I want to get your thoughts, first of all, around what you did feel about him and what you think going forward. Let's start off there.
It was a sad and an unexpected loss, noting that the brother had just announced, yes, he's been unwell, but recovering. And, so there was hope that he would come back home. So it was a shock to everyone. But saying that I wasn't given ample time is an understatement. I wasn't given any time at all. You look at the regime, good to give him a state burial, but wrong to try to own him to the exclusion of others. Kenya, by definition, is a multi-party state. So every state function, because the state includes the people. It's not a state for leaders in office. It's a state. The Kenyan state includes everyone. Therefore, both at the Nyayo Stadium and at the Bondo funeral service, there ought to have been recognition of the opposition and official recognition. Kalonzo did mention our names when he was given an opportunity, but there ought to have been formal recognition. If time doesn't allow speeches, we went there to bury Raila. But to fail to give us to take any note, they took time to recognize members of parliament, diplomats, dignitaries there, mention everybody, but you want to sort of erase the presence of the opposition. At Nyayo Stadium, it was even worse, but we took it in our stride. We went there to bury Raila. We buried him. And now in forums like this one, we can say what we could have said. Yeah.
What would you have said?
Because looking at the proceedings, I saw a regime that was in a hurry to milk political capital from the occasion. You could see choreographed talks, especially from some of the ODM brigade, insisting about staying in the broad-based government, which was not the subject of the day. The subject of the day was the burial. You could see choreographed conversation. Those who didn't follow the script was Siaya Governor James Orengo and the Secretary General of ODM, Sifuna. Everything else was supposed to flow. Even calling the Luo Council of Elders, the CARE, to come and endorse it. it was quite bizarre in my view. And it's a desperate move because you don't overdo it. And we just watched. But one thing is certain, that there will be ripples in the political landscape following the death of Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, not just in his party, ODM, across the board on the political landscape. Whether Dr. William Ruto and his KK brigade will be able to hold on to the goodwill left behind is something to watch. But I don't think,
When you talk about the man Raila Odinga, and he's been described as an individual who never harbored any grudges, you know?
Yeah.
You talk about his detention by former President Moi, and he got out and worked with the man, you know? You look at his differences with Kibaki, they worked together. His differences with Uhuru Kenyatta, they worked together.
I also disagreed with him.
And you ended up being his
running mate.
Yes. But you look at his burial at a time when it is a state funeral, as rightfully said, where 55 plus million Kenyans are part of it because our state is the people.
Yeah.
And an opportunity is not given. And at that point, one would argue that we just lost what the man stood for.
Yeah.
What does that say, even if it's milking political capital? For what purpose? The man didn't stand for what it is you're pushing for.
It just shows that the regime, which stands for the opposite of what Raila stood for, is determined to bury his legacy with him. If indeed they understood or honored the man, the funeral proceedings would have been different. There would have been recognition of the different shades of opinion. You will note Raila, even when he chose running mates, Kalonzo at times and myself, the last election, he chose people who were not in his party. So he not only stood for multipartyism, he practiced it. He didn't have to say, come to my party to be my running mate. Kalonzo remained in his party while being a running mate of Raila. I remained in my party while being his running mate. He appreciated divergent views. We stood on opposite sides a couple of times, fiercely disagreeing, like on the 2007 elections and all that. But the Democrat that he was, he recognized difference of opinion. Because if you take the 2007 for instance, I was Kibaki's agent. I was in PNU. He recognizes that. Therefore, I could not have been his advocate. I was the advocate of my party, just like Governor Orengo was the advocate of his party. So he recognizes that, something many people miss. So he doesn't carry it with him. And there are other occasions. Recently, on matters NADCO, I disagreed on negotiating with William Ruto because he's not sincere. Look at NADCO, 2 years on. What came out of it? What has been implemented? I disagreed with him going into government. But we agreed to disagree, as Democrats do, but remained friends. And that's why I was able to have conversations with him, even when he was on the other side. That's why I was able to tell him in July of this year to reconsider his association with William Ruto, especially after the killings during the commemoration of the 25th of June, followed closely by more killings on the Sabasaba. That's when I called him. So we remained, in touch, each respecting the other's position, but asking him, does it bother him that this is happening?
I'm curious, Martha.
Yeah.
When you did have a conversation with him, what did he say? And I'm asking this because For the last couple of days, everybody has told us about, well, Raila said this, Raila told me, when we were together, he said this. On this particular thing where you called a friend, somebody you'd worked with before and said, please reconsider this thing because look at the blood that has been spilled. Reconsider this thing. What did he say?
Actually, I told him, I know in your heart of hearts, you stand for the people, and that's what you have done throughout your life. Why are you giving support to a regime doing this? Does it bother you? His words were that he was uncomfortable with what is happening. I told him I was not asking to discuss for his full response then. I just wanted to leave it there with him for him to consider. But I want to give credit to him and say that on more than one occasion, standing publicly with Dr. William Ruto in the public space, he told him to end the abductions, extrajudicial killings, and torture. He did call him out on violation of human rights. Whether that was enough is up to everybody's, the court of public opinion, but he did call him out more than once. Yeah.
What would you have said on the podium during his burial?
I would have said that we fought for multi-party democracy, which is entrenched in our constitution. And therefore, I will remain in opposition, and opposition will remain because it's sanctioned by the constitution. And therefore, the move to bring all parties under one roof is actually unconstitutional. We must have opposition. Number two, I would have said the greatest honor we can give Raila is to follow his ideals. And one is to uphold multipartyism. Two, to uphold the rights of the people. And therefore, the regime must stop violating the rights of the people, abductions, extrajudicial killings, and torture, and must always act in the best interests of the people. I didn't need more than 90 seconds, but I'm saying it here. Yeah, because you cannot say you are honoring a person and then you continue to do the opposite. Raila's life, most of his life, he was in the trenches fighting for the people. In fact, together with his family, it was a sacrifice that involved the family. He was away from the family many times because of his stand on fighting for the rights of the people. So to honor him, it's not just about decorating him posthumously with medals. It is actually ensuring that what he stood for is what is happening. And we have it embodied in our 2010 Constitution. So let us not have empty words. That's what I would tell Dr. William Ruto, even from the spice room. Do what is right. Look at these bills he signed. On the morning, the news of Raila's passing came. He didn't stop for a moment of silence. He quickly signed the bills, knowing very well that they would not be discussed. What would dominate the airwaves is the death of Raila. But Kenyans are going to pick it, and it's beginning to be discussed because all these bills are oppressive. Raila was a Democrat. Ruto is returning us to the dark days. The amendments to the cyber laws is meant to go after. Already they are going illegally, and the court dismisses their cases. They're going after people who comment, who post things against the government on the media, even things that are not criminal offenses, that don't make sense. Now they are tightening the law, so it will not matter that it's something you have a right to express yourself, as if they think. So we are giving the control over your thoughts and actions to the state. This is something we must resist. We must resist giving the state oppressive control on matters land. So that community land, already this regime, during its tenure, this is a grabber's paradise. Then they go ahead and make laws that allow the state to have a say. Yet the main grabbers are sitting in big offices. Dr. Ruto has been mentioned in the Dabibi land case, which is still in court. The Kilgoris land, his name featured. If they have a say in the matters that should belong to the National Land Commission, where does the ordinary Kenyan stand, the citizen stand in matters grabbing? This is the wrong regime. If at all, any share of power was on matters land was to be given to the state. But again, why would we change? We brought in a land commission because we wanted someone in the middle between the people and the state. We should really watch out. Nothing good is coming out of these bills. And if we think we have a parliament, Dr. Ruto has already swallowed parliament.
You know, when you talk about the parliament, let's just go back, first of all, from what James Orengo said, and requested the president, please, Mr. President, don't kill political parties, because the man that was being laid down to his rest fought for political freedoms in this country. You know, and there will be political consequences, whether Kenyans like it or not, whether the political class likes it or not. We've already started seeing it. The way members of ODM itself spoke at the burial of their boss. And with that then comes the question, it is feared, or the Kenyans are saying, nani atatutetea? You know, nani atatutetea, which the way forward? Because if you look at even the bills that were signed, Kenyans are asking, rightfully so, when and where was public participation? Where was this National Assembly that all of a sudden now, including those who called this man a witch at the time, are now speaking praise to this man? Do we even have a National Assembly that understands its job?
No, it's already been swallowed. We do not have a National Assembly. And I want to challenge members of the National Assembly who have proclaimed to be part of the opposition. We need to hear your voices opposing, not outside in the public rallies. You must earn your salary by talking inside Parliament, so that as we criticize KK and their brigade, do not miss Parliament when these bills are being discussed. Your voices are what will enable the people to know. I was a parliamentarian and I know, even when a single person opposes, the airtime given to Parliament, it enlightens people. And there were many occasions that we were very few voices, but people got to hear. So I'm telling members of Parliament, if you're working for the people, do not be absent when critical bills are being discussed. Do not even accept a trip abroad. I know it has some allowances. Forgo those allowances to do your duty to Parliament. I used to come back from wherever I am, whether abroad or within the country, even when I was campaigning for presidency in 2013, to be in the House when critical bills were being discussed. This is what a member of Parliament must do. We want to hear one voice, two voices, or as many as proclaim to work for the people. Otherwise, we will not be able to distinguish between you and those who are blindly following the executive. We need to hear those voices.
Martha, I have a question, and it is important because even as we look at a broader political landscape in terms of who may be running for what position, having a fundamental understanding of the processes through which governance then is practiced and entrenched is one of these things that you mention. And most times we don't make decisions not because we don't want to, but because we do not understand the process for which that decision is an outcome. When a bill is brought before Parliament, you were the member of Parliament for Gishogo constituency. When a bill is brought before Parliament, what happens within Parliament for members to begin to discuss before it gets to the point where the president signs on it?
It's read the first time. There will be no debate. The second reading is when real debate and amendments occur. The third reading is formal. So the first reading is like notice, and then you get to the second reading. The process is now different since 2010 because after the first reading comes public participation so that the views of the public are taken into account. But I have an issue with public participation, the way it is executed. Members of Parliament and the committees most people manipulate the public participation. So you are calling a controlled sample of people who then, and we saw one such public participation in Bomas. I can't remember what bill it was, where Murara went and they were saying he was beaten up, roughed up.
Oh, it was towards this possible impeachment of...
no, it was
not
maybe
Gachagua?
finance or something.
I think it was finance
It
bill,
was
yeah.
one of those things. So you see how they control. If you're going against the grain, you will not be given the mic.
Okay.
And this time, it was not about the mic. It was about merely being in the room. So it excludes divergent opinion. We have to restructure public participation, look at what the law says and also practice it, and let anybody who is willing come in and not manipulate who is called to speak. Number 2, public participation can also be through memoranda. We must revisit the court decision that said Parliament does not necessarily have to take on board what public participation says. I believe that's a wrong decision. They have to. If there is overwhelming rejection of a proposal by the public, whose parliament is it? Is it your parliament as leaders, or is it the people's parliament? If you're carrying on board people's views and 90% are saying no, you really must stop and rethink. If half the population is saying no, if all the memorandum you're getting are against, you got to think about that. We cannot trash public participation. If you read Article 1, it's very clear. People retain their power, their agency at all times. They can exercise it directly or through elected representatives. So when they are writing that memoranda, when they are coming to tell their representative, they are exercising their agency. And if a majority are saying no, then it is a wrong decision to say that they don't have to take it on board.
So Parliament can come back and say, from the public participation proceedings, we are seeing that the majority, or whether it is a sample size or not, because sample is representative of the larger population, isn't it? They should actually be able to come back and say, the people do not want this, let's revisit.
Let's revisit. You stand it down and you take time to understand what are the objections, to look at them, and do what is right. Actually, most cases in court on public participation and against bills by the government is because they are tone deaf to the people's view. I remember a long while ago when Huduma number came, and I was one of the lawyers doing the case on behalf of the Kenya Human Rights Commission against Huduma number. We were not against Huduma number per se. We wanted data privacy, issues of data privacy to be looked at. Because when you bring the data together of so many, of the entire nation, you need to be very careful how it is managed so that there is no breach. It doesn't go to unauthorized hands. The state did not want to listen. The case went on. Eventually, they were given a go-ahead with certain modifications. Huduma number never took off. It died. But the coffers were emptied of lots of money paid to lawyers. Why wouldn't you sit down with the public when they raise an issue and discuss. We are still at that stage. We have a constitution that gives people a say, but we have officials of government and the government itself being tone deaf and taking you as a criminal when you question. Yeah.
Martha, we talk about tone deaf, and I just want to look at bills that originate from the government. And I would want to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
By the time these bills are coming up, they have gone through the office of the Attorney General, who's the chief advisor, a legal office for the government, right?
Yeah.
And it comes to the National Assembly, who again has battery of lawyers to just guide on what is right and what is wrong, including the processes that are there. So by the time a bill goes through this entire process and omitting a specific integral part that is public participation, looks, or rather paints a picture of, we know what the law says, but Wakenya mtadu.
Actually, it's the mutadu culture. It's impunity. The state is being run with impunity, not under the rule of law, not with adherence to the constitution. We know what is supposed to happen, but we will not do it. We will talk about what we should do, and we will do the opposite. If you listen to Dr. William Ruto, you would think that they shared a lot in common with the late Raila Odinga. Absolutely not, because he stands for something totally different. Even the way the proceedings were conducted can tell you that. Even having choreographed group from within the ODM to only sing praises of the union between it and the state, they even forgot that they were mourning.
You think that was choreographed?
Yes, because everyone could see. And in between, they bring the care. Because you want the people to know that even the elders, the entire community has said so. Was it a ceremony to endorse the union between ODM and Dr. Ruto, or was it the burial of Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga? They could even have tried just a little bit to display the things that he stood for. Yeah, so it is, actually they were trying to make political capital, and that's why there was no room for divergent opinion. Those of us known for their divergent opinion were not welcome. So they decided to call only one, His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, under the banner that it was a former vice president. But Raila was mourned by the whole and is still being mourned by the entire country. So you allow both shades of opinion. You cannot be having 20, 30. Yes, his party worked with him. We too worked with him. I was his running mate. And we've been in parliament together for 20 years. Knew him just before entering parliament, and his wife. I'm a family friend.
Yes.
You know, you could let other people, it doesn't even have to be me, get one or two from the opposition brigade, but it would have made sense to give me time as his running mate.
For sure.
Yes.
I mean, that goes without saying, and I think the decency of it is very loud in terms of then what could or could not have.
But what we said is that we went to bury a man we worked with, respected, a man we considered a brother, a friend, and having done that, we left. Yeah.
That also was the platform for a lot of the beginnings of conversations about how the political tide essentially would either recede or will then come towards the beach.
Yeah.
And it is clear that perhaps there will be realliances. Raila has been titled over the last couple of days as the king of alliances. He was the one who was then able to drop any kind of animosity, any kind of hurt, and say, okay, fine, let's work together. In his death, it's also being seen as that as a result of his death, there will be more alliances.
Yeah.
Kalonzo Musyoka, who you referred to quite often already this morning, is already being said as perhaps the one to be targeted to cross over to the other side. Is that an impossibility?
I think only him can answer, but so far he's been targeted and he hasn't moved. Yeah. Yeah. So I think he needs to be given credit, that he's been firm. He showed a firmness that has not been associated with him before. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think there'll be overtures. Looking at Dr. William Ruto, reading his mind, he would want a one-party state. He would want to be king, if he could. If we were Americans, we should be holding a rally, no king. But instead, here we call it one term. So he knows the country is one term. He would want that one term to be a lifetime for him. We really must demystify power. As Kenyans, we must uphold and adhere to our constitution, and we must fight for it. The fourth president of the Republic, Uhuru Kenyatta, said so at Kasarani. Uncharacteristic. He said Kenyans will fight for their rights. I am saying those rights are in the Constitution. Let us refuse any alterations of the Constitution, especially under this KK regime that does not respect the Constitution or the rule of law. And even these proposals of a term of 7, that alters the executive. Elections were held under the banner of 5. You cannot alter the executive to 7 through a parliamentary amendment. It has to go back to the people. And for what reason would we be giving the KK regime an extra 2 years to continue being an extractive state worse than the colonial state? A regime that is ready to raid your entire payslip and leave you without enough food, without amenities, making nonsense of why you go to work every morning. A regime that will not respect your rights, that will use the guns that we have bought for our defense to kill you. Look at what happened at Kasarani. Why on earth would anybody order shooting of mourners? Mourners can be excited a little bit, but they're harmless. There's nowhere where we have been told the mourners did anything wrong. Even at Kasarani, if they were a little animated, wishing to to pay their last respect to the body, they posed no danger to anyone. Look at Parliament. They climbed the gate. They did not pose any danger. Look at the airport. They went right up to the aircraft. They didn't damage it. They did not damage anything. If there was shooting at the airport, it would have been hundreds. So why shoot at Kasarani?
What happened there? We saw the CS Murkomen in an attempt to try and stop this, or at least ask questions in terms of what was going on there, and actually, came down from where he was seated to ask the men in uniform to, desist from this. Would that not have bared some kind of,
imagine
thought?
Even the tear gassing was wrong. But in an extreme situation, then you could be, if we were talking only of tear gas, it would be a lesser evil. Although tear gas can also choke to death.
Yes, it can.
And it can cause a stampede. But shooting live bullets directly at people, because I saw bodies with gunshots in the head and in the chest. What we need is accountability. We need to know who issued that order. We need them arrested. We need to know who shot. And media has already provided images of who shot. Therefore, it's possible to know. Now, if Dr. Ruto and his government do not want blame for that shooting, we need accountability. And they still will have blame, because he told people, shoot them in the leg. Once you give an order for people to be shot with the guns that should be protecting them, that kind of thing is bound to happen. And I remember telling a member of the government, a PS, and I will not name them, when we were at the airport, and I saw them roughing people who had entered the lounge, actually punching. I saw police punch. And I went to the PS and told him, this is so wrong. You don't punch mourners. You just redirect them and tell them, don't pass through here, go back. You see? And I cautioned them on use of force. I didn't know that it was going to happen a few hours later at Kasarani.
You know, when you talk about the mourners going all the way to the airport is one of the highly secured places in the country. Mourners went over the fence. They got to the aircraft. They wanted to ferry their man to where they wanted. Expressway, people don't walk on expressway, but Kenyans took advantage.
That day was a special day.
Took advantage of it. But here we are having the law, the constitution of the country that is so clear on what needs to be done. One would even argue by the time you give announcement that this will be a state function, it will be a state funeral. The law guides how that will be done, you know.
The law and common sense, which doesn't appear to be common in the people sitting on high places.
Then we have conversations on a term of 7 years, and the person pushing these again is a student of the law. You know, is a lawyer by profession who understands the law. Go to Kasarani and there is people being shot and killed, and appears as though, Martha, the law to some people in the country is a suggestion.
That is exactly the opposite of what Raila Odinga stood for. You know, the rights of the people. He fought for the constitution, so he stood for the rule of law. Why would we devalue the life of citizens that much? If you look at mature democracies, and the best example I can give is France, when there were demonstrations that turned rowdy, and they were massive, they even broke into shops in Paris, there was minimal loss of life. I don't know whether it was just one, you know, because property is not greater than life. And you can see a police force that is ready for crowd control. You need mics, that's one, because you need to address the people. Why would you arrange for people to go to Kasarani and you have no way of addressing them? How then on earth do you even intend to tell them how to queue to view the body? Communication is a must. The people took more than an hour, more than 2 hours to reach Kasarani. All the arrangements should have been made. This is a clumsy and clueless regime. That's all I can say. And which has total contempt for the constitution and the laws under it.
We're building up, and we're also coming back to a place where a lot of responsibility is then being placed on your shoulders, and we'll come to that in just a bit. But your principal partner, Rigathi Gachagua, was missing from a number of these proceedings. Many would say that the most that they saw from him was a message of condolence that he put on his social media. We don't know if he went to Karen. Likelihood that he did not.
I wouldn't know myself. And those are questions that are better asked of the man. We each mourn in different ways, and our relationship with our departed brother were on different levels for each person. So you cannot ask another person to do what person X. For instance, you can't ask him to do what I did. It is for him to know what to do. And we must also take that visiting families, even visiting with families, is not compulsory. Those who feel they must do. For me, I was in Uganda when I landed in the morning. I had just landed for the Besige case. I came back on a 10:30. I arrived in Kenya 10:30. But I still made my way to Karen because I needed to condole with Mama Ida, who is my friend, and also with the family. So it depends on the level of engagement one had with the departed. And I think it's not fair to expect that what one person does or two people do, everybody else has to do it. It
had sharp political overtones, though, regardless of what the reason was, even if there is one or not. And that to say that you're going into a political dispensation whereby it would appear that most people in this opposition coalition went in this direction, Martha, and that he didn't. Does it have a touch?
On Twitter?
Sure, he did. But does it have a touch then on how a country then would perceive or accept you, in your opinion?
I think you leave that to the people, but you also leave it to the explanation if asked. But I'm also emphasizing we must not expect of every person. Mourning is a deeply personal thing.
Yeah.
So you let people express themselves the way they would. And I know that my twin brother Kalonzo came all the way from London. He interrupted his trip because I talked with him when he was there. He felt compelled to interrupt his trip, come back, join in mourning and celebrating the life of Right Honorable Raila, and then go back to his whatever the trip entailed, which was really very honorable.
Sure.
But then when you look at their relationship, you understand where he's coming from. Like I said, each person has a different relationship.
Indeed.
For Kalonzo and myself, it goes back many years. Yeah.
Like I said, going into an interesting time politically, because beyond the mourning and celebration of the life of Raila Odinga, there were many statements that were made that point directly to political directions that people will take into the future or were even starting to think or to perceive. And that the united opposition also taking a position whereby they said the things that Raila and Kalonzo Musyoka gave a bit of an opening to this, that the very tenets of the things that Raila Odinga fought for throughout his life are the things that the united opposition was going to insist that they continue doing. Is that the position?
That is the position. A luta continua. We will continue pushing for respect of the people's rights, adherence to our constitution and the rule of law, and for the state always acting in the best interests of the people. And that means stop selling our critical assets like the pipeline. Stop misusing our resources and overtaxing people to maintain you in luxury and to make you billionaires or the richest people, some of the richest people in the world. So we really have to continue fighting for the people. And I want to tell the people of Kenya, and Nyanza is in Kenya. There are many parties you can join. You are not restricted to any one party. It is a free country, because I could see the narrative wanting to push them, like put a gate. You can't, this is where Baba left you, you can't leave. They're free just like all other Kenyans, and they have expressed freedom before. We have seen other parties like the party of Ochieng, MDG. We've seen, there was a long time ago, James Orengo, Governor Orengo was elected on Ford Kenya. And even other people. So there is an opening for people to realign. Let those who feel they want to work with Dr. William Ruto do so, but let them not force everybody else who feels differently, because there are many who feel differently. Let them go to the formations that they feel they can work for, and especially those who feel that they share the ideals of democracy and adherence to the rule of law, respect for human rights. Let them look for partnerships where that is observed. Our doors will remain open. And yes, we will go to Nyanza, just like any other part of Kenya. Not just to open offices, but to seek members. We will go to Sugoi as well, because it's also part of Kenya. So there is no place that is going to be a no-go place. So to Dr. William Ruto, you can milk dry the occasion, but you will not be able to fool anyone. Yeah.
And as we talk about going towards the election and the formations that are there and alliances as well, one looks at the united opposition and the need for the word being united and coherent while at it, for that to work, because you look at the government side as well, they are forming alliances and coming together as well towards 2027. So let's talk about the united opposition and the need for that word united to be the center bolt that ties everything together, just as the leadership and the principles in the party. How are we going about it to ensure that the word united is not just in the formation, but we are walking that talk?
This is a work in progress, and so far we have done very well. I'm yet to hear anybody say so far so good. But as an insider, I'll tell you this, so far so good. We are doing well. We now have an official spokesperson in the person of Dr. Mukisa Kitui. And we are moving. We will very soon move to a stage where we all can sign a pledge of commitment, so that we do not only silently say these are our ideals, but they are public for scrutiny. We'll move to a stage where also we have a united manifesto, so that even though we have separate parties, we have some things in common, which then each party can tweak, but a minimum of the things that a transformed Kenya would entail. So we are moving, step by step.
Does a shaky ODM make it enticing or juicy for the united opposition to walk in and get new members, even invite members of parliament who don't know where to go?
I think there's always been movement in and out of parties, and the united opposition is open, and our individual parties remain open. And PLP, for instance, recognizes that Saul had the opportunity to become Paul. So it doesn't matter where you start, where you end is what matters. And all of us do sleep at some point and then pick up the pieces, reorganize ourselves and